There were a lot of people who really enjoyed what they saw with the Last Dance documentary that just finished off, but a lot of ex-Bulls players weren't quite as happy. Let's get into it. What is up, everybody? Jacob Winnington here with Amateur Hour Sports, where we give you raw and unfiltered sporting content Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So if it is your first time here with me today and you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports. Let's get one thing very clear about the Last Dance documentary. It was branded and it was advertised as a documentary about the 97-98 Chicago Bulls, about the team. This was not the case. This was a Michael Jordan documentary. And that's okay. There's no problem with a Michael Jordan documentary. Even if that's not how it was advertised, that's completely fine. A very entertaining Michael Jordan documentary, one I enjoyed very much. Mike is the star man, and he would garner the most attention from any sort of documentary that airs. So, fuck yeah, he's going to be the focus of attention. And yeah, there are snippets from other players throughout the entire thing, like there's a thing on Pippen, a thing on Steve Kerr, but everything, all the stories are told from Michael Jordan's perspective, essentially. In everything that anybody said about Michael Jordan for the documentary, the directors or the crew, whatever, who were filming the part with Michael Jordan could simply hand him over a tablet. He could see what they said, and he could rebuttal the point, he could refute it, discuss it further, and he would have the last word on everything in The Last Dance. So there can be the case that Michael Jordan twisted a bit of the narrative because he had the last word, he had the last say in everything, so he could say from his perspective, and that's what we would have to believe. And in Michael Jordan having the last words, there are two players in particular who are very upset. In fact, they're quite outraged with how they were portrayed within the documentary. Those two players are Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen. I'm going to address what they've had to say in the media lately and discuss, whether they're right, whether they're wrong, whether Mike was wrong, and go over that for the rest of the video. So those are the two things I want to discuss, and we'll go chronologically and start with Horace Grant. Early on in the documentary series, Michael Jordan talked about his time as a rookie, how he walked into a hotel room with all the veteran players on the Chicago Bulls, and there were copious amounts of cocaine, weed, alcohol, women, and whatnot. And make no mistake, in the 70s and 80s, the NBA was a drug-filled league. And if it wasn't for the work that David Stern did to turn the league around, the NBA would not be what it is today. I do very much think it is a bit out of pocket for Michael Jordan to be talking about these sorts of things in the documentary, but at the end of the day, it is his documentary. He has the right to talk about whatever he wanted, and he wanted to talk about this. Though I agree that Michael Jordan can talk about these sorts of things, I think that Horace Grant has the right to be mad about him talking about these things. There's going to be a lot of guys, like damn near 40 years after it happened, sitting watching the documentary with their families, who don't really need to have their family aware of this information. They don't want this sort of information that maybe they wanted to leave behind resurface about them. It's just unnecessarily talking about the negative connotations about somebody's past that they may not want to revisit. I understand that you are responsible for your actions, and I'm a very big advocate of this. You're responsible for your past no matter what. Though I don't think Michael had to talk about this in a documentary being broadcasted to millions and millions of people. Now, addressing how Michael claimed that Horace Grant was the snitch behind Sam Smith's Jordan Rules book. Now, it is not only Michael Jordan who has been given this information and who operates under the notion that Horace Grant was the man behind the leak for the things published in the Jordan Rules book. So if many others possess the same information that Michael Jordan does, he should feel well within his right to talk about Horace Grant being the man behind the leak, basically the snitch for the Jordan Rules book. And since there are so many credible sources who have likely given Mike this information and share this knowledge that Horace Grant was the guy behind the leak, even if it is not true, all these credible sources have informed Michael Jordan that this was the case, and therefore he is very inclined to believe it, and rightfully so. But also, it is very well known that Michael Jordan was an asshole to his teammates, and maybe it didn't really need a leak to find out that, yeah, Michael Jordan was not a good teammate to some guys. And this statement can be proven in one of the quotes in the documentary. One of my favorite quotes from the documentary, Will Perdue quotes as saying, "He was an asshole." So I think that Horace Grant was well within his right to defend himself on this. Obviously, we don't know whether it's true or not, but Horace Grant, who strongly feels as though he did not cause the leak, he was not behind it. Maybe the rumor had started and it just evolved into this huge thing, but if Horace Grant is adamant that he did not cause the leak, then for sure, he needs to defend himself because he has been portrayed as a snitch on national television in front of millions and millions of people. Obviously, I have no idea who leaked the information. I'm just saying from what I know. In exploring both parties, Michael Jordan had the right to call out Horace Grant in The Last Dance because he has been given the information from credible sources, so he's inclined to believe that information. But also from the other side, Horace Grant is well within his right to defend himself to that. And if it in fact is not true and Horace Grant has talked to Mike in the past, obviously we don't know their relationship, but if Horace Grant has been adamant in the past that it wasn't him and all of a sudden it's resurfacing, then he has the right to be very upset. Like, Michael Jordan is a very powerful being, and if Michael Jordan calls you out in The Last Dance in front of millions of people, it's likely that those people are going to start harassing Horace Grant about it. Maybe they're going to start giving Horace Grant shit for leaking that information. Maybe it isn't true and Horace Grant is on the wrong end of all this online criticism. So not saying anybody was wrong here, because Michael Jordan, to his knowledge, that's what happened. And he's been given that knowledge from so many different people likely. And Horace Grant, if it is in fact not true, he has the right to be outraged that it's been portrayed that this lie has been broadcasted all over national television to so many people. Let's respect Horace Grant. He was a phenomenal power forward in his day. He was pivotal in that first dynasty for the Chicago Bulls, three-peating the first time, the third best player on that team. He was a fantastic player. I don't think he got enough love in that documentary, though. It was the Michael Jordan documentary, so we can't give too much shit there, but let's put some respect on Horace Grant. Now let's switch into the comments made by Scottie Pippen. Apparently, Pippen is outraged and beyond angry about how he was depicted in that documentary. And I can maybe see why he is mad, because they really whispered his accomplishments and screamed out his failures within the documentary. The biggest things about Scottie Pippen in the documentary were how bad his contract was, how he refused to get surgery over the summer before the 97-98 season and rehabilitated during the season instead. And also, it talks a lot about how he bailed on the team with 1.7 seconds left in a game, refused to check in when Phil Jackson elected to give the last shot to Kukoc, essentially making everybody on the team sad and reducing Bill Cartwright to tears. Tony Kukoc, by the way, did not get enough credit in that documentary. He was a great player as well. So first of all, Michael Jordan continuously sung praise for Scottie Pippen throughout the documentary. In fact, on numerous occasions, including the documentary, he says that this doesn't happen without Scottie Pippen. This is because of Scottie Pippen as well. It's not just me. And Michael Jordan is definitely right in saying this. In my opinion, Scottie Pippen is a top 50 player of all time, and he's a top 7 small forward of all time. He deserves a lot of credit. But let's focus in on the issues erased in The Last Dance. Firstly, the infamous surgery that he prolonged and didn't do until the season started. He didn't do it during the summer and rehabilitate where he could have been ready for the season. He literally said in the documentary, he quoted in the documentary that he wanted to enjoy his summer. He didn't want to rehabilitate during the summer. He would rather enjoy his summer and miss the start of the 97-98 season. Those are Scottie Pippen's words. In saying these words, he shows that he has absolutely no regrets for that decision. If Scottie felt regrettable in any way for not having the surgery at the start of the summer, what better time than to address it and say it at that point? If he had any sorts of regrets or if he wanted to apologize, he could have done it there, but he chose not to. Now let's look at the situation where 1.7 seconds on the clock, Phil Jackson gives the ball to Tony Kukoc instead of Scottie Pippen because Kukoc hit a lot of big shots that season. Scottie Pippen is enraged and refuses to check into the game, which is big because you want to have a bit of a decoy there. People are going to be focused on Pippen and maybe Kukoc can get a better shot. Now, Kukoc hit the shot, but Pippen was not on the floor for the shot. The team got upset. Bill Cartwright was crying. A lot of guys were probably crying. Scottie Pippen was upset. Pippen apologizes profusely in the locker room for quitting on the team. Pippen is in the documentary again with the ability to clean the air, to clean it up. But what does he say? He says, if I could go back, I would do it again. Absolutely no remorse, just no apology, just he would do it again. So even though he was depicted poorly in that circumstance, and he was complaining how poorly he was depicted in the documentary, with the ability to show any sort of remorse, show any sort of apologeticness, he refused to do so. Instead, he doubled down and he said he would do it again if he had to go back. So sure, the documentary doesn't look great on Scottie Pippen in a lot of scenarios. It looks great on him in some, but doesn't look great in a lot of scenarios. And he didn't help his case at all. How could he be this mad when he himself added on to the negative image that he portrayed himself as throughout the documentary? He had the chance to slightly rectify his errors throughout the entire series, but he chose not to do so. And all love to Scottie Pippen. Like I said, one of the greatest to ever play the game, but he added fuel to the fire in the way he depicted himself. He had the ability to clear it up a little bit and didn't. And again, enough respect to Scottie Pippen for what he did, but I can see why he's a bit upset, but he didn't help his case at all. That's all for this one. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like the video if you like and subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports for more content just like this. As well, hit that notification bell. We post 4 times a week. Stay up to date with all the content coming your way. At the end of the day, I believe what I say, and if you disagree, that is okay. We'll see you again next time.